What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, let's do a little quick Middlekauff Mailbag. We're going to have to go draft rapid fire style because this is not going to have that big of a shelf life, obviously, with the draft literally today. So I'm not going to, I'll try to be quicker than normal. We will start with Reid. Sanders. Draft odds have gone from over-under pick 8.5, Saints 9, I think, to over-under 21.5. Curious about your thoughts on his possible slide. The Pelissaro article didn't help. I would say by April 23rd or is when the Pelissaro article came out, so the day before the draft. I didn't read it. I didn't even know there was an article today. Nothing in that article. If it's, I guess I did see a headline by Pro Football Talk about negative talk about whatever. There is nothing that a team that was interested in drafting Shedeur Sanders did not know reading in that article. And if there was, then the team's clueless. But I think it's fair to say that any team that was very interested in Shedeur, there's nothing they're learning from an article the week of the draft. So it's more about the landscape of teams not drafting him high, not because of anything, written in an article. But I hear what you're saying. I also think that, I don't know. I can't speak to the betting markets in terms of draft selection, what could significantly change. But I do not think it's an article. Could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm 100% know that, but I don't think it. What do you think, this is from Ramos, do you think of the players, what do you think of giving players at the draft a chance to skip a team or two? As a rookie, you have no say in what team you would like to join. Only top college players, they go to the worst teams in the NFL, and sometimes their careers are dying there. Hear what you're saying. This is kind of like, it's a little different, but similar vein of the lottery with the draft. Obviously, this is more like a bold step. I just don't think the NFL is that interested in messing with the lottery odds, situations like I don't have to go play there not because my dad doesn't want me to go there like Arch and Eli, but because I have this card that I can pull. Like, don't want to play for Jacksonville. I'd rather go to Vegas. Like that. They're never doing that. Big Charger fan and big Middlekauff fan. I like this guy. With that being said, who do you think the Chargers should take in their first and second round picks? I'm hoping for Loveland and Trayvon Henderson. If you ended up with a sweet tight end and a sweet running back, that'd be pretty good. I do think the Chiefs brought in Henderson. I forget. I saw a headline whether they had a call with him or they flew him to Kansas City, but I do think he'd be in play for Kansas City as well. I don't think he will be there when the Chargers have their second round pick. I think you guys are going offense. So this guy's just basically just complaining about taking defensive and offensive linemen. I'd feel pretty good. Like, one of Jim Harbaugh's best assets last year and definitely this year still is that he knows these guys so well. He's recruited all these players. He's coached against them. So, like, Loveland was his guy. Henderson, like, he knows these guys. So does his defensive coordinator, has coached against these guys. So I'd feel pretty confident that in Jim Harbaugh moving forward in terms of, I'd be confident going into this draft about Jim Harbaugh's knowledge of these players. Is it tougher these days to evaluate quarterbacks with so many college programs running non-traditional NFL-style offenses? How do you know a guy can run a pro-style offense when they've barely been asked to assess those situations or make those throws in college? Well, just because you get to a throw, maybe in a shotgun situation, in a Texas Tech air raid situation, different than under center and a 5 or 7 step drop, doesn't mean you don't have the arm strength or the accuracy to make that throw. I remember asking Andy Reid if he thought it was harder to evaluate Mahomes in that spread offense than it would have been 20 years ago when everyone was playing in like Pete Carroll at USC, right, running pro style offenses. And he said no, he thought it was easier because if you're, I'm just picking a random number. Let's say on average you're throwing it 45, 50 times a game. He said for Mahomes, for example, he just took out all the quick screens. So any throw behind the line of scrimmage, when he was evaluating, he just didn't watch. What's the point? Like obviously you can make that throw. I don't need to evaluate you off that throw. But all the other throws, now your footwork, you're in the shotgun, you might not be in the shotgun for similar plays, but I can evaluate you as a thrower. Or 20, 30 years ago, you were playing in offenses that I was going to look something up. I was going to go Brett Favre, college stats, and let's do Baker Mayfield, college stats, and let's do Jared Goff. Jared Goff, college stats. So Brett Favre in college, I'm just going to use this as an example. See if they even have his stats. At Southern Mississippi, he threw his senior year, 1990, 275 passes. His junior year, 89, he threw 380. In his sophomore year, he threw 319 in 11 games. Baker Mayfield, for example, now he's going to play more games because they were playing he's playing 13 or 14. Actually, Brett's probably a bad example. Brett was actually throwing it a lot. Looking at Baker Mayfield's, Jared Goff threw it 500, 530. Baker Mayfield was 400, 350, 400. Now, I guess Oklahoma was running the ball a lot. Let's use another guy. Let's use Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning college stats. I said I was going to be quick, but this is kind of fascinating. So Peyton Manning, God, I mean, these guys are throwing it a lot. Peyton Manning, 380, 380. His senior year, 477 times, 1997. Jared Goff, 2015, 529. So he threw it 50 more times. In the same amount of games, one less game. So I think guys sneaky throw it more than you realize. Now, your point being that their offense parallels more what NFL teams do back in the day in college under center. I think teams, some of these NFL teams, shotgun's a huge part of their operation. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, like ran shotgun offenses in the prime of their career. The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. Can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through the finals. Now, the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been your go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will Curry drop 30? Will LeBron drop 40 or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make the playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Who do you think the Chiefs are going to draft? I think it will be offensive weapons because if the Chiefs could be more explosive, it would make other teams play differently. Totally agree. I would guess they draft two off. I think they're going to be in the tight end business, and I think they're going to be in the running back business. So I would expect offense as well. Wouldn't it make more sense for the Titans to draft Hunter or Jeanty? They could get a quarterback in the second round or take Cousins. I think they like Cam Ward. Like they think Cam Ward can be. I mean, their head coach was just around Joe Burrow, and their GM was just around Patrick Mahomes. So they have a pretty good idea what a quarterback at a high level looks like. Their offensive coordinator, uh, Nick Holtz, was around Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago. So I think they got a pretty good idea of what they're looking for in a prospect. I would just take Cam Ward. I hear what you're saying. I would rather have Cam Ward than Ashton Jeanty. And everyone's like, you hate Ashton. I like Ashton Jeanty, but I'm also, the way I look at drafts might just be a little different than everyone else. How do NFL GMs receive multiple phone calls and trade offers during the 10 minutes to select their pick in the draft? Are they the only ones on the phone, or is there a hotline or something where they all are getting offers? I just don't understand how these complex trades can be negotiated and finalized so quick. Well, any complex trade, and I've heard GMs and people around the league talk about this, are being negotiated in the first round right now. So you are putting deals, at least the parameters of deals, in place. I'm recording this on Wednesday. You did it on Monday. You did it on Tuesday. You have had these discussions. Anyone that has watched those videos of like a front office, the GM has a couple guys, his cap guy, maybe his assistant GM, also calling people. So it's like, hey, get DaCosta on the phone. Hey, get Howie on the phone. Hey, get John Lynch on the phone. Get Veach and Andy on the phone. So you got other people working while I'm working. Because you're right, you can't do that. I also think just the hard line, which all these teams have in the draft room, the cell phone's a pretty, like, you can text immediately. Like, all these guys are texting each other too. So yeah, it's a lot going on. It's really intense. It's an intense environment. Some guys, I've seen Howie. He's comfortable in chaos. I mean, any Eagles fans that have watched the stuff that the team puts out, like, he's comfortable in that environment. He fucking likes it. He lives for it. I think most guys like it, right? Most guys, all these GMs, especially like the football guys, like the guys that grew up loving football, and I would put Howie in this category as well. Their number one dream to be a GM, like, Howie's a good example. He talks about, like, his dreams to win Super Bowls and he calls it world championships, even though it's an American championship. It's always been a pet peeve of mine. But like Super Bowls, Super Bowls, Super Bowls, their dream as a little kid to be a GM is the draft. So it's like, yeah, I mean, the point of the draft is to build the team to win football games. But like, when you desire and or aspire to be a general manager, it's sitting in that seat and being on the clock. I mean, that's the whole point, right? Just like if you aspire to be a football coach, you probably aspire to call plays. I'm a Falcons fan. What do you think about drafting Malachi Starks with our 15th pick instead of an edge rusher? One thing I really liked about our defense last year was having two absolute lockdown safeties who always came in the clutch. With Simmons probably not coming back, we'll be missing one of those safeties. Do you think Leonard Floyd is enough for a pass rush with maybe spending a second or third round pick on an edge rusher? Grady is also gone, which will be another hit to our rush. Yeah, I mean, I would say historically, if you look at a lot of starters at safety, do not get drafted in the first round. Obviously, if there's Ed Reed, a Ronnie Lott, I mean, an absolute game changing player. I don't even know. Ronnie Lott was a little before my time in the draft, but I'd assume Ronnie Lott was a first round pick. But, a lot of guys that play that position do not get drafted in the first round that start in the NFL. So Ronnie Lott was the eighth pick. uh, I assume that. I would say that I would take a defensive lineman in the first round and take a safety on the second day of the draft. Malachi Starks obviously had a great college career. He's a big time player at Georgia. It would be difficult for me to take a safety in the top 15. I'm more pro linebacker. Like, if there's a great linebacker, I have no problem taking Luke Kuechly, Roquan Smith, those type players in the top 15. Safety to me is a little difficult. I would take pass rusher. It's easier for a pass rush to make a safety look good than a safety to make a shitty pass rush look good. Just watched the movie Draft Day on Netflix. I love Costner and the idea of the movie about the draft. Holy shit, was it bad, though. Not even Costner could save it. Have you seen it? And if so, is there anything in that movie that reminded you of something that happened when you worked in the NFL? I have seen it. It's been a long time now. I think most people consider it the most unrealistic portrayal of reality ever. And like you said, you don't even need to be some former scout or coach to know that's no way that's true. It's just not. Now, I think some realistic aspect of it is like the coach and what's the coach's name? He's the dude from the firefighting show on FX. Dennis Leary, I think his name is. And Costner butted heads a lot. I think that there's some truth to that, those two positions not always being on the same page. But the trading of picks and then trading them back, I do think there's some validity also to getting to know a guy. Was it Bo Callahan, the quarterback that no one showed up to his birthday? Like that, it seems funny and we all laugh about it. But I do think there's some truth to like, does anyone like the quarterback? Let's use Baker Mayfield as an example. People have loved that guy since college. It's why when the situation he went through with Odell Beckham, it was like, what's going on here? And do you know what it turned out? Probably more of an Odell issue than Baker because people like Baker Mayfield a lot. And the value you have as a quarterback, everyone's looking at you. And I think you see it around the league, obviously the star quarterbacks, but even that next tier of guys. Like people really like Jared Goff. People really like Baker Mayfield. Guys really like Dak Prescott. I mean, it really, really matters. So do they come to your birthday? I mean, do you even invite all these guys to your birthday? I don't know. Mailbag question. In their prime, at their apex, pound for pound, career for career, who are you taking? Favre or Rodgers? Uh, in their apex, Favre won three straight MVPs and took a team back to back Super Bowls. I think in their apex, like the best of the best, I would lean Favre, also factoring in the intangible stuff. What we just talked about with Baker, with Mahomes, with Josh Allen, with Lamar. I felt like not only the whole team, the coaching staff, and the city would run through a wall for Brett Favre. And there are certain guys like that in the history of the NFL. Tom Brady had that. You know, Rodgers, I don't know. Does he not have that? He didn't have it at the Favre level. And I think the totality of his career, his peak was longer, but at their apex. Marty Morningwig told me one time he thought that Favre is the best player that he'd ever seen. Now, this was 2010 or 11, so I mean, there have been great players since, but Brady and Manning, um, I mean, the peak of Favre, 96, 97, 98 was pretty freaking good. I heard you on the pod talking about the youngest Heisman winner. The youngest Heisman winner was Lamar Jackson at 19, followed by Jameis. I think what I meant, I didn't mean the actual age. I meant, Lamar was a sophomore. Now, technically, he was a true sophomore. Johnny Manziel was the youngest in terms of he was the first freshman to win it, but he was a redshirt freshman. I think same thing with Jameis. So to me, we're nitpicking there. I hear what you're saying. Sophomores, true redshirt freshman. A true freshman has never won it. Caleb won it as a true sophomore. Forever it was juniors and seniors. Now it's obviously redshirt freshmen and sophomores win it. But I hear what you're saying. Because Lamar started as a true freshman at Louisville, I'm pretty sure. So he wanted his second year as a starter. Johnny wanted his first year starting, though he redshirted the previous year. That's what I was kind of alluding to. But I appreciate those notes. My question for the pod. I'm a Packer fan. In 99, Holmgren left to take the Seattle job, and Green Bay hired Ray Rhodes. However, we had Andy Reid on the staff in 1998. Do you think football history would have been different had Reid been hired instead of Rhodes? Would we have more Super Bowls? Would Favre be viewed differently? Do you think this could have changed how your career turned out as well? Well, yeah. I mean, if you hire him at Green Bay, I think it's fair to assume that the Packers, yeah, I mean, I would have been more bullish on Favre's 2000s with the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, they never get back to a Super Bowl, never wins another MVP. I think he would have played at a higher level. I mean, who would you take, Andy Reid or Ray Rhodes? So if you just, at its simplest terms, I think then Andy never ends up as the Philadelphia Eagles head coach. Who knows? Never ends up in Kansas City. Now, like all things end up ending. So maybe he is fired, but maybe it's at a date when the Chiefs don't have an opening. So yeah, I mean, anytime you do the butterfly effect, I think it would impact everything. It would change the landscape of the National Football League. Does Donovan McNabb get drafted to Philadelphia? Who coaches the Eagles? Are the Eagles any good? So yeah, I don't know how to uh like quantify wins, losses, who wins Super Bowls, who doesn't, but it would have had a dramatic impact on the National Football League for sure. Because you guys had a weird before Sherman, or was Mike Sherman there? Who was the coach? Ray Rhodes. Because McCarthy got there in what, '07? If you were in charge of college football program at Oregon State, what would you do to get the program back on track? We finished the season ranked in the top 20 in 22 and 23. But with conference realignment, we lost our head coach and most of our best players. We just finished a huge stadium renovation and acquired Duke transfer Malik Murphy. But it still seems like the program is nowhere close to where it was pre conference realignment. Do you have any ideas how to get a Pac 2 program like Oregon State in a position to merit an offer to join the major four conferences? This does not bring me joy saying this. I'm not trying to kick you while you're down. I was a small school guy. It's not like I'm a USC, Texas alum. I got my start at Fresno State, which is essentially you're technically still the Pac-12, but you're a Mountain West school as well. So I have a lot of admiration for what goes into the smaller schools to even attempt to compete. You have absolutely no shot in 2025. It pains me to say that because unlike me, like going to Cal Poly, you got to experience what it was like to play in huge games against USC, the University of Washington, the university. Your rival was the University of Oregon, who's one of the best programs of the internet era. I mean, that was your fucking rival. Excuse my language for all the kids listening, but it's over. You got no shot. Absolutely none. And I think having Dickert on the other day, Washington State's guy, and obviously Jonathan Smith. Jonathan Smith, I mean, you know this, but who's now the coach at Michigan State, played quarterback at Oregon State. And there was just like you think he wanted to he's from LA. You think he wanted to go to Michigan State to be a head coach? But he couldn't stay because you can't compete. You can't keep players. The schedule now relative to what it used to be is never going to be the same. And I think, you know, what sucks being Oregon State and Washington State, who legitimately tried, who, you know, for the most part had high highs over the last decade where UCLA has been a joke. The only reason UCLA is in the pack or in the Big Ten is because USC brought them along, right? Because of the LA market, not because of their football program. Their football program is a laughing stock. It's why I think Nico going there is say over and over is a joke, leaving Tennessee to go to UCLA. But like you got the short end of the stick where schools like UCLA, who did not do a good job, benefited. Hell, even like Arizona. Like you have been a much better football program than the University of Arizona over the last 20 years. It's not even close. And they get to go to the Big 12 and you get nothing. I It sucks. There's nothing I can say beside it sucks and there is not a path. There really isn't. Because even if they merge into these two conferences, right, like the NFL, NFC, AFC, basically the Big 10 and the SEC, I don't see how Oregon State gets involved. I really don't. I've heard Collins say several times that Rosenhaus can be persuasive. That'd be Drew Rosenhaus. Specifically talking about getting Abdul Carter drafted. How is it possible for an agent, even if he's a top dog in his profession, to get teams to draft his clients when they're the ones spending numerous hours and days evaluating players? Okay, this is the last question. I think I mean, Abdul Carter's, you could argue he's the most talented guy in this draft because of his skill, playing pass rusher, elite bend, speed, explosion. tackling ability, range. Like he's an elite. Rosenhaus just has to sell you maybe on the doctor stuff. He's okay. But like you said, the doctor, who's an actual doctor, looks at the GM and the head coach and be like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable. What can Drew tell you? Now, Drew can get second opinions. I think it's more his persuasion can be helping guys get more money in negotiations, doing package deals, getting late round picks selected. But when you're talking Abdul Carter, I don't think Drew has any impact on that at all. And I have a ton of respect. Rosenhaus elite as gig, elite. But you Abdul Carter, maybe if you got like Roseman or Les Snead or one of these guys on the phone. I know Trent Baalke has done, I mean, a lot of deals with Rosenhaus over the years. He definitely can have an impact on maybe like a lower tier free agent, getting workouts for guys in the offseason who are unemployed. But in a situation with like a top 10 pick, I think especially in a day and age when the money is slotted, so it's not one of those like, can we get the guy signed? For those of you that are young, like if you're like 22 years old, when I was a kid, a huge talking point was like, if you had the top two or three pick, you would negotiate with like four or five players and kind of have an idea who we can sign and who we can't. But those days are dead. Like there is no negotiation. Like this is the contract. Sign it, buddy. So I hear you. I don't think with Abdul Carter he has much juice. Now, can he just pitch the shit out of you with like a fifth round guy, wear out your owner? He can do that too. He can. One thing Drew would have is he would have a direct line to 32 owners. So let me take a step back for a second and rephrase where he has no juice with the top pick. He getting the owners here. And at the end of the day, the guy signing the check is the ultimate decision maker. So if he can convince the owner to pressure then yeah. So now, can he impact a GM on the seventh pick in the draft? Probably not. But what if the owner goes, well, I really like so and so, and Drew has been wearing him out. Maybe took him to dinner, had a few cocktails. So I think, listen, all you guys listening in sales, some guys are just more persistent than others and can just kind of talk it into reality. And I would say Drew, does Drew have an impact? He's got Jalen Carter. If you got Howie and Drew with each a glass of wine, like what role did Drew have in convincing Howie that everything was going to be okay? When I was with the Eagles, Drew had Shady and Deshaun. So it's like Howie and Drew's relationship probably goes back 15, 20 years. I would imagine over the last three or four, no player they talked more about leading into a draft than Jalen Carter. And it's worked out pretty well. I would imagine Drew wore out Howie, just like every other GM. But it worked. So maybe they have a bigger impact than I just everything I said. Take it all back. Maybe Drew, Drew could sell ice to an Eskimo.